Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Whiskey and War Stories. This is season 3, episode 12. Welcome, everybody. What's up, Brian?
How's it going, Jaime?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good. Did you say episode 12?
Season 3, episode 12, yes.
Oh, wow. We're getting there, man.
I know. We got 3 more, and then we're going to put a cap on this season. And man, has flown by. Wow.
Yeah. Jaime mentioned to me he wants to get together over dinner, and he has some exciting directions or ideas for next season. So I'm interested in hearing that. But
yeah, I'm excited about where we're going to go for the next season, and some slight changes, but I think really, really good changes. So I'm excited for that.
Sounds good. I'm all for it.
Perfect. I like it. Well, as is customary, every episode we dedicate to a fallen hero, and this week Ryan has the honors of doing the dedication. Ryan?
All right. So on November 21st, Sergeant Terry Mashkow was shot and killed in Florida while serving an eviction notice, of all things. As 3 deputies and a locksmith entered the house, the subject opened fire. 1 deputy was wounded, and Sergeant Mashkow was fatally struck. Another sergeant returned fire, wounding the shooter. The locksmith that was with him was critically injured and died 2 days later, and he was named as an honorary deputy. The suspect later died from his injuries. Sergeant Mashkow served with the Indian River County Sheriff's Office in Florida for 25 years.
Gosh.
She is survived by her husband, daughter, stepson, and mother, and was posthumously promoted to sergeant. Yeah. Horrible, huh?
Yeah. Man, 25 years, you're like on the bottom half of your career. And, and this was on November 21st.
21st and serving a big nothing, quote unquote, eviction notice.
Oh my God. Right before the holidays too. It's tragic. She's almost made it over that hump to retirement, and it's tragic, man.
Yeah, so horrible. So rest in peace, Sergeant.
Yeah, rest in peace, and cheers to her.
Cheers to her. What are you cheersing there with, Jaime?
So this week's bottle is kind of special, kind of unique, and it's actually tied into today's guest. So my brother went on a hunting trip out of state, and went with our guest. They met each other on this trip, and my brother says, "Hey, you should reach out to this guy. He'd be good to have on your podcast." So I reached out to him, and he was willing to come on, and we ended up, hooking up a date, and here we are today. Anyhow, my brother had a bottle of whiskey that he was drinking when he was over there, and I saw him post it on Instagram. He did like a post of like a cigar and a whiskey or something.
Oh, I like him already.
Yeah, so I sent him a text, and I said, "Hey, bring me back a bottle." Actually, it was kind of joking, but he was like, "Oh, damn." He's like, let me go back and get you one. So he actually went back and bought me one, wherever he bought it from over there.
Yeah.
So the bottle I am drinking, I've got a picture of here, is I'm going to screw up the name. Hockatown?
Probably Hockatown, yeah.
Hockatown Distilling. And it says here, straight bourbon whiskey, small batch. Our straight bourbon whiskey is handcrafted for mashing with the finest corn, rye, and barley through fermenting, aging, and bottling. Every part of the process is done on site by hand. And Oklahoma, that's where they were at. Hockatown Distilling Company was formed in the heart of southeast Oklahoma, with a goal of producing the finest quality spirits, aged not less than 3 years. Here it is here. And let's give it a little taste.
Jaime, while you sip that, I have a question. So for it to be whiskey, does it have to be made in Kentucky, or is that false? I don't know.
No. There's a lot of bourbons that are distilled outside of, there's bourbons that are produced here in California.
Yeah.
New York and Yeah, so I think that's probably just like Kentucky whiskey is probably,
Yeah.
if they label it Kentucky whiskey and it's from somewhere else, and it's, obviously not the real thing, but
Yeah.
bourbon, they just distill it in, any state really.
Right.
Good. It's got a really leathery taste to it. Yeah, it's pretty good, little sweet on the front, and then a little leathery oaky on the backside. So pretty good.
Are you rocking a mustache?
I am, yeah.
Oh my goodness! Look at you,
man. I'm trying. I can't.
You let it grow?
This thing never. I'm trying to. This thing never grows in, man. Let me try to pull this full screen so you guys can see this.
Are you getting there?
All right, man. It's coming in. It's coming in.
I have the propensity to grow like a bushy one, but then to me, I look like a walrus. I'm always shaving it down.
Yeah,
and then
I'm very blotchy, so I can't. There's spots I can't really grow it in. So, anyways, anywho, so we'll bring on the guests. I already told you that my brother was, a proponent in getting him hooked up. So, really pleased to introduce him. So let me take this off. Bring a picture up here. Here we go. So our guest this week is works for the Riverside County Sheriff's Department. He is Lieutenant Joseph Fitzgerald. Joe started adult life as a 1993 and 1997. He was in the Marine Corps. Started as a machine gunner assigned to the 2nd Battalion, 4th Marines, Heavy Guns. 1995, he tried out for and was selected for the 2-4 Scout Sniper Platoon. He finished his first enlistment as a pig in that platoon. After his first enlistment, he transitioned out of the Corps and became a carpenter. Joe returned to the Marine Corps in December of 2002. He was assigned to Mobilization Training Battalion from 2002 to 2004. Joe was later hired by RSO and started the academy in late 2004. Joe fell off contract with the Marine Corps while attending the academy and never looked back. As a new deputy, Joe worked custody before going to the Moreno Valley Station for patrol. He was later selected to the Emergency Services Team, SWAT, where he served for 10 years. While on that team, he worked several assignments, proactive assignments, off-road enforcement, and was cross-sworn with the United States Marshals Service Pacific Southwest Regional Fugitive Task Force. Joe was promoted to corporal and returned to a proactive enforcement team. Joe left the Emergency Services Team in 2018 for an assignment at the Sheriff's Range. In 2020, he was promoted to the rank of sergeant and assigned to custody briefly before returning to the Moreno Valley Station. At the Mobile Station, he worked as a patrol sergeant for 2 years before moving to the station's POP team and ultimately hit the gang team. In 2023, Joe was promoted to lieutenant and assigned as a regional watch commander covering Hemet, San Jacinto, and Cabazon stations. So without further ado, we want to welcome Joe. What's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
We are great.
Man. Yeah, excellent, man. I love the bio, and we obviously have the Marine Corps in common together. And you're with 2-4. So I was with 3rd Battalion, 4th Marines.
All right.
Yeah. So where were you stationed at?
At Camp Pendleton at San Mateo.
Oh, okay. And you did what? 4 years, 5 years in the Marine Corps?
Did 4 years the first time.
Okay.
Got out. It was funny, the things you learn afterwards, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was a pig in the state platoon, wanted to go to sniper school. All I had to do was extend, but nobody would tell me the magic combo.
Right.
Talk to the career planner. He's like, hey, I got a job for you. You can do recruiting or you can do drill instructor.
Right.
And I want neither. I just want to stay here and do my job. And he's got his quotas to fill. He wasn't hearing it.
Of course.
So we left in less than amicable terms.
Okay.
Well, him and I.
Right.
But finished that first one, got out, was never coming back. And
nice.
A friend of mine got me into carpentry. Started just slinging wood. I was a carpenter's apprentice, pulling bent nails, dragging stuff off the truck.
Right.
And ultimately got hooked up with the union So I did 4.5 years with the Carpenters Union and was a journeyman carpenter by the end. I was working on the Pachanga Casino out here in Riverside County. It used to be just a
okay.
and then they built what's now this big Vegas style casino. Working on
Right.
that, 9/11 happened. And it's like, you know what? Put me back in, coach.
Wow.
I want to get back in. And it was funny. Me and my friend Travis, we were both in together. We lived together when I got out. And we both went down there along with everybody who got out in the last few years trying to get back in. And that prior service recruiter was like, hey, man, I don't know what to do with you guys. Give me a few months.
Right.
Cool. A couple months later, he calls me back. Like, all right, man, I'm getting married in like 3 or 4 weeks. So let me call you. And shoot, about 6 months after my wife and I got married and went back in, and then never left Pendleton. Like, man, not exactly why I wanted to go back, but still part of the machine,
Right.
to help out a little bit.
Yeah.
And,
how'd you get into snipers? Was that your first tour, or did you get, or was that your second tour?
that was during the first enlistment.
Okay.
Did our first pump as a machine gunner.
Okay.
And I had a friend who was in the state platoon, and he was, talking it up, and it always looked cool, right? Like they'd show up, they had long hair, cool guns,
Right.
and they just disappeared. You'd hear them on the radio, maybe you'd see one of those guys around, and then they were gone again. Like, man,
Right.
I want to do that. Didn't tell me about all of the sucky parts of it, right? You're going to be hungry, you're going to be cold or wet.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, he kind of mentored me through, prepping me as we wrapped up that deployment. We were just sitting on Okinawa waiting to come back. And then we came back. They had, because this is before emails and everything else, there was a flyer taped to the wall in the barracks. It said, if you can survive the baptism of flames, 2-4 Scout Sniper NDOC. And then it had the dates.
Right.
Like, man, yeah, I'm in. And dude, that started it.
I'm not a military guy, but I did see a documentary, and maybe you could explain it. In sniper school, like there's a final test, if you will, where they got to crawl like certain X number of yardage without being detected. Does that sound familiar at all? Without being detected to make a shot?
So not a school trained sniper.
Okay.
That's in the bio, put a pig, right?
Okay.
In those circles, you've got your hogs, which are the hunter of gunmen. Those are the ones who graduated the MOS generating school, and they're given that official title. And then you've got your pigs, your professionally instructed gunmen, who get crapped on most of the time, right? Because you're the new guy until you've graduated school. So, everybody else is like, man, that's cool, you're on that team. And then the hogs are like, dude, shut up, sit down. Keep your mouth shut, your ears open, you'll be all right.
So how do you graduate to the hog? Do you apply for the school, or how does that work?
Well, you have to get sent. And that's why I wanted to stay in, was so I could have an opportunity to go. And then when they told me, hey, dude, we're not going to give you the opportunity, the career planner. So I was like, okay, cool, guys, I'm out. Thanks for everything. We'll see you later.
Right.
And so mine was like 2 years of OJT. I never got to the actual official school, right? Never got the degree, if you will.
Right.
But we did plenty of that training. And yeah, it looks great, the documentary. It's really romantic in the books. On the ground, it's a different story.
Nice. Well, first, a two-part question. First, what led you to the Marine Corps? Was there did you have family before? How did you end up in the Marine Corps?
So my father was in the Air Force. My stepdad was in the Army. He was an older gentleman. He was 22nd ID in World War II. So he toured the Pacific. Yeah, tough old man. When started getting close to, it was my junior year that I signed up in the delayed entry program. Got out of school, like, yeah, let me go talk to these recruiters and see what's going on.
Okay.
And Sergeant Miller, I remember his name. He was the recruiter, little sawed-off fella. And I I came in there, long hair. I was just Joe Cool, and he chewed my ass. And, you want to be part of this club? You're going to walk into my door looking like that and be part of this club? I'm like, whoa, okay. Put me on notice right away. And like, yeah, I can dig that.
Okay.
Started doing my research, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? That's the club I want to belong to. And shoot, that's where it started. I have no idea what that.
Nice. You come from a lineage of servicemen.
Yeah. I've got uncles and cousins. I was the youngest on one side, so all those cousins were older, and a few sailors and airmen over there.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's just something I thought that adults in our family did.
Right. So, nice. My second part of the question is, can you tell us about the path that led you from the Marines into law enforcement? How did you, how was that path?
So, I got out the first time, right? And 22 years old, I knew everything, you can't tell me what to do. I've been around the world.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't drive the boat. I was just sitting in the back seat. Like I said, my friend got me a job doing carpentry. And it really drove me nuts how and I worked for some really good men in the Carpenters Union. And I worked for some that were really horrible leaders. And it drove me nuts that this guy is, construction is exploitation, right? Like, if you pay the guys $20 an hour, you're billing the other guy $50 an hour, you pocket 30, and you yell at those guys because they didn't do enough work.
Right.
And it chapped my hide to work my tail off to make another man rich. I'm like, this isn't cool. I'm the one doing all the work here. And they've got to leverage capital and everything to get the jobs. And I understand that now, as a young man, I didn't. But I just didn't appreciate some of the poor leaders that still got a check at the end of the day, and they were horrible people. And so that really put a bad taste in my mouth. At least in the Marine Corps, and there are some bad leaders in there too, and I've learned from some of them. But at least it was a better mission in my eyes, right? I wasn't working just to make another man rich, to get another guy a boat.
Sure.
And at the time, a friend of mine and I, we had our own side business, right? We were doing themed pool work, the fancy rock work around pools.
Right.
So we were doing that and just trying really hard to make it happen. And then that's about the time that the war kicked off. And I was like, man, yeah, this is what I have to do. Service is what I need to be doing. And I went back in.
Nice.
That's another story that I'm sure we can get into. But while I was in, one of the guys in my unit was a Riverside deputy that got recalled. He was still in the IRR. And he and I worked together in he was telling me about Riverside and telling me about the job. I was like, man, that's kind of cool. You're still doing service, still, making a decent wage and still giving back to society, right? And looking out for other people. It's like, shoot, man, I could do that and live at home.
Right.
Not a bad gig. And then I knew a couple other guys that had gotten out and gotten into law enforcement, and I talked to them. And yeah, it just sounded really like something I wanted to get into.
Right.
So there's still adventure, and you're still doing service, but it's, I don't know, local.
Right. So, did you go on a ride along Riverside first? You just applied there, and the rest is history.
You know what? I didn't do any ride-alongs with Riverside. I worked with that gentleman. Mr. I'll throw his name out here, Chris Perazzo.
Okay.
He's a larger than life personality. So it's kind of funny when people are like, dude, you were with him 20 some years ago in the Corps.
Oh, wow.
But him, and then there were a couple other fellas that I met along the way. I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So I did my research on them, and, with the SO versus a PD, there's a lot more opportunity to move around and more assignments that you can check on. So yeah, I put my eggs in that basket, and it worked out. I'm into my 22nd year this year.
Nice. And is your buddy still there?
Yeah. He's still out there hooking and jabbing, making it happen.
Nice. So machine gunner, scout sniper, how did those roles kind of shape how you see teamwork today?
Okay.
Or even in a leadership position as a lieutenant, like how have your previous roles in the Marine Corps shaped how you?
The biggest piece for me, and it's the whole stay platoon thing was interesting because not only was I a pig, I ended up getting promoted to sergeant along the way. Right, I made the cutting score, which really made it awkward because I was a supervisor, but I was like unqualified for the MOS. And really learning to manage personalities came in there, right?
Right.
And you know how that club is and how the guys are, right? Everybody's a larger than life personality. And
Right.
especially you get into those small units, there's a lot of machismo and just learning how to feed different people different things to get the best out of them.
Sure.
Right? I had a gentleman I worked for, and I wish I could find him today, James Vela. He was the gunnery sergeant in charge of the heavy gun platoon and reconnaissance Marine. He has been around the world and done that. And he was wrapping it up with us. And I remember this to this day, right? And this is back in the 90s. He told me, he's like, look, the most effective leaders, their troops don't know they're being led. Inspire them, take care of them. It's like, okay. And he's telling this to a 20-year-old man, right?
Right.
And at the time, I kind of grasped it. And it just, as I get older, it makes more and more sense, right? Like, I don't need to stand in front of you and say, hey, I'm your sergeant. You have to do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
I have to figure out, hey, what does Jaime need to be the best version of him? And then help you to achieve that and get the most out of you, right? And then that helps the mission. And moving into that small unit thing, like you're it. There was just
Right.
4 or 5 of us out there, and you either get along or it's going to be a rough freaking week. And just really kind of honed my craft on that piece. And then bringing that into law enforcement is, how can I help you? Not just the citizen, right? Because we're supposed to do that, but how can I help you towards my partners, right? Whether it's doing paperwork or just trying to get the best out of them, right? How do I get you to be better today than you were yesterday? And then,
Right.
Been doing that 22 years here, and it's worked out better than I ever thought.
How do you see? Do you see any challenges in leadership in the Marine Corps versus leadership in law enforcement? And I could think of a couple right off the top of my head, but have you run into any challenges?
Oh yeah,
in those areas.
It's in the Corps, like if it's not working out, you could just go settle it in the bushes, right? We can't really do that.
Right.
It's prime. So you really have to be good at your craft and good at eliciting the best out of your people, because you can't, if I just stand there and yell and scream, are they going to do what I tell them to do? Yeah. But it's going to be out of spite. It's going to be done poorly because they're mad at me, and nobody's getting anywhere with that.
Right.
And we all know people like that. I can think of a handful of names right now that are, sheriff sergeants and lieutenants that really ride on that bar of those stripes and not so much on their personal relationships with these people.
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
It's easy, right? I could sit back and be like, hey, I'm the lieutenant. I said so.
Right.
And will they do the job? Yeah. Right. That's how the machine works. But am I prepping that deputy to become a corporal, that corporal to become a sergeant?
Yeah.
No. If I get there and do it with them, and they work because they want to be part of that machine, they want to be part of our team, we're going to get a better outcome. We're going to get, the job gets handled safer. The crook gets locked up. We get build solid cases. People are safer. At the end of the day, it works out better, but it's a lot harder. It's easier to sit back and just point my finger and pound on my chest and tell you what to do. But, we don't get to the end of the right way that way, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you know what? I always say that you learn really good, a lot of really good, strong, basic leadership principles in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps has taught me really, really good leadership principles: rigor, discipline, mission above all else. Those type of things are stressed in the military. And I see two things. The good part is I see good leaders take those skills and they apply it and they adapt to law enforcement, right? The failures that I've seen, and I have seen this, and some have been in our department in the past, where people lead with that militaristic style in law enforcement. And although we are a paramilitary organization, we are not military. So leading people militaristic is not going to work for you. We've had that, and you'll fail every time, right? In the Marine Corps, you could tell somebody, "Hey, go do this," or else. You can't tell somebody, "Go do this," or else in law enforcement, because your ass is going to end up in IA if you do something like that, right?
And
that worked for a day or two.
That was a big transition for me. Young Deputy Fitzgerald was a little hot, and and with my partners, because I came from that club where you demanded excellence, period. Right. Like, what do we do? We're excellent, right? Whether it's the guy turning the wrench on a Humvee or the guy pulling artillery, the 0311's out there making it happen. We demand excellence from everybody.
Right.
And in law enforcement, we work with people, not that Marines aren't people, but it's a cult, and everybody buys in.
Right.
But some of these folks, they buy in from 8 to 5, and they'll work and they'll give you an honest day's work from 8 to 5. And you can't treat them like that Marine or that soldier or sailor where you've got them for 4 years. And I caught a jacket for kind of being a little rough, not rough with people, but rough with my partners and demanding early on. And I had a gentleman sit me down and he's like, "Look, Joe, these are 8 to 5 guys. They're not Marines. They're not soldiers. You've got to drive, and that drive is amazing, and stick with it. However, you need to accept that not everybody has that same drive." Right. And that was a good turning point for me. Right. Because I was quite a few years onto the job and just kind of butting heads with folks. And it took this guy he's a big ogre. I love him. Mike Carroll, built like Wreck-It Ralph. And, but he's just a super gentle guy. His fist is about that big. And he sat me down. He's like, "Hey man, look, this is where you're going. I think you could do better." And shoot, that stuck. I kind of changed a few degrees in my trajectory and worked on my delivery. And yeah, man, it got better for me. Unfortunately, there are still some people that are like, "Oh, I remember Joe. He's an a-hole." Sorry if I have high standards. But
we work with so many people that I see that the delivery is the only thing that holds them back from being like super excellent. Like, we have a lot of talented people, a lot of supervisors that they have a good heart. I think even a good message that they want to portray, but just that delivery, the way they talk to people, immediately there's going to be a wall that's put up between supervisor and subordinate. And a lot of the times they come up after and say, "I wish I would have talked to people differently." It's something as simple as that.
Well, that's that whole youth is wasted on the young thing. When I was a young man, I thought that was just, joints and muscles and discs in your back, but it's much more cerebral, like if I had known that years ago, shoot, where would we be now?
Yeah, very, very true. So leaving the Marine Corps, transitioning to civilian life, and then eventually making a career into law enforcement, what were some of the challenges you saw getting out of the Marine Corps and transitioning into civilian life?
Oh man, and coming from Marine Corps infantry, right? We're rough folks, and the rest of society isn't that way. And definitely rubbed some people the wrong way, right? What I thought was funny, what my friends thought were funny, maybe the other people didn't really appreciate.
Right.
Making that, transitioning out. Man, I remember making the decision, being a carpenter's apprentice, right? Non-union wood framing, and getting paid at the end of the week, not too much, and having to make that decision, like, do I buy gas or do I buy food? If I buy gas, I can get to work. I can make more money. If I buy food, I'll be okay for tonight. But if I go to work tomorrow, I'll get my check at the end of the day and everything will be good. And that's where the rest of America lives, right? Like, these people go to work every day. They do a good job because they could get fired. And in the military, like, unless you do something criminal, you're gonna still have a job, right? Yeah. And they'll take care of you. You're always going to have the chow hall at a minimum. There's going to be the barracks. You can get kicked out of your house. You still live at the bricks.
Right.
So there is that safety net, and not having that safety net when I got out, that was a big shock. Like, whoa, okay, this is real life. Need to rein it in a bit.
Yeah, we've had a number of veterans come on here before, and a lot of them have experienced the same thing, to include myself transitioning from the Marine Corps into civilian life. And for me, it was a little bit different because I went from the Marine Corps. 6 days later, I was in the police academy. So there really wasn't much of a it was in one right into the other. So for me, it was a little bit different. But for most people, there's a little bit of downtime in there. And, I think a lot of it is military folks look at civilian folks as being undisciplined, right? And I don't think I think that's just the way that we perceive it, right? It's because their lives aren't as regimented as, lives in the military, right? Because that's the way it has to be, right? We have to fold our beds have to be, the creases have to be at a 45-degree angle. And, my bed's still made like that today.
They do a tremendous job at brainwashing.
They really do. And, one of the things that, we've always said is, you have to make a new normal. The normal in the military was, waking up at 05 reveille and, formation and PT and chow hall, and everything is just very structured and regimented, right? And you're used to that. You're used to that structure. And when you no longer have that structure, sometimes you go berserk, right? That's why, we see this in folks that go to prison, right? They're used to that prison life. So when they get arrested and they go back to the pen, to them, they're used, because when they're in the civilian world, baseline. Yeah, when they get out of they're lost. They don't know what to do. They have no structure in their life. So it's kind of like that. I always tell folks, you got to make that new normal when you get out, right? You gotta make that new normal, what life is now. You got to make that into the normal and not live in the military days, or the high school quarterback days.
Exactly. Pull pie 75.
Exactly, and that's where a lot of folks miss a step there. So real quick on your military service. Sorry, Ryan, do you want to say something?
I have a question for you, Jaime, and maybe both of you.
Sure.
Jaime, since you were in the military, you were combat tested for sure. Saw your time at Midley. Did you ever have any issues, like, with your training officers, maybe in your mind, kind of thinking, like, who is this? Well, not kid, because you were young, but who is this guy? What does he know, trying to tell me how to do stuff? Did you guys ever go through any of that?
So I would say that I never experienced that with my training officer. Where it hit me the most, and this is a part of my career that I wish I could have changed, is once I became proficient in being a police officer and I knew what I was doing, I became cocky. And I sold it as I was just being confident, but I wasn't. I was cocky and I was arrogant as a young cop. And, in retrospect, looking back, I think that the way that I was, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. And I wish I could go back and change my attitude at the time. And that's why I think I'm hard on a lot of our really young go-getters. Encourage them to be go-getters, but encourage them to be good people too. I think that I was probably a dick a little bit, the way I used to walk around. I never said hi to like newer cops. And, I always thought I was like, the gang guy, that was the military guy, that is the combat guy, and the war, like, just, I kind of wore that as a badge of honor, and not realizing that I came off as cocky and I was being an asshole to people. So I think that's what my downfall was, Ryan. And there was like, probably like a good 5 to 10 years that I held that, and I wore that sort of as a badge of honor. And back at where I am now, I'd probably slap the shit out of myself if I could, but we live and learn, I guess.
We all would.
Was it like one incident that that kind of led you to evolving back to a little more humility, like maybe going back to patrol from special units, or was it a lot more gradual just to realize that you were like that?
So say the first part again, Ryan. You cut off.
Did you get that?
Can you say the first part again, Ryan? You cut off.
Yeah. So I said, you're talking about how you're cocky at first, and obviously you're very humble now. Can you track it to like one incident, like maybe rotating back to patrol from special assignments, that kind of helped you make that transition, or was it like really gradual to where you are when you are now?
You mean what was like the point where I'm like, what I'm doing is really fucked up? Like,
Yeah.
Well, so it actually wasn't at work.
Okay.
And there was a specific day, and I'll tell you, I don't even know if I ever talked about this, but it's really good. So I walked into CrossFit one day, and I went with I walked in with a friend. Both he and I walked into the CrossFit together, and we both walked in together. And there was a group of our CrossFit folks waiting for the class to start, and they were all sitting in the corner. There was about 8 of them, and we both walked in together, and everybody greeted my friend. They were like, "Hey!" They hugged him. They gave him a high five. They were doing like the fist bumps. And when I walked in, we were right next to each other, like shoulder to shoulder. Everybody was like, "Hey, Hemet. Hey, Hemet, how's it going?" Like, hey. Everybody was just so standoffish with me. And I'm like, and I actually took a step back, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, is this what I really do to people? Do I make people feel like this? Like when they're around me? And for the first time in my life, it actually bothered me. Like, I thought about that the whole day, the whole next day. I'm like, I think I'm causing people to do this, because the other person came in and they were like, "Hey," they were like giving them hugs and high fives. And I walk in and I'm just like, people are like, "Hey, I'm it." And I started realizing I'm doing the same thing at work. It's the same way in my career. When I walk down the hallway, people are just like, the "Hey, hi, I'm there." They'll like try to avoid me if they're a newer cop, because they think I'm like this mean guy or something. So that's the first time I started taking a look at it. I'm like, man, nobody else is doing this. I'm the cause of this. I'm causing people to react like this to me. And I didn't like it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that I was creating this aura that people were like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know if he's upset, or just I don't want to say hi to him." And I realized that something had to change. I didn't like it. I didn't like who I was, and where I was going. So I think that was the start of me wanting to make a change.
I definitely remember that, Jaime, for sure.
Yeah, cocky, arrogant, and like I said, if I could slap the shit out of him, I would. But
we got you back. You're back, kid.
Yeah, I'm back. Joe, I wanted to ask you: have you, during your time in the service, was there any? Did you experience any symptoms of PTSD, any type of moral injury, or burnout? And then I'm going to ask you the same question for law enforcement.
All peacetime stuff when I was in. At
Sure.
least for my unit. When I went back in, it was during the war, but I was at ITB making more machine gunners for a year. I was definitely burned out at the end of that one. It was interesting, right? And this is what the perspective I gained getting out in 97 and then going back in 5 years later in 02.
Yeah.
Was after, having to decide, do I buy gas or food? Paying my own bills. It was either pay the bills or you're on the street. Gave me a different perspective to some of the leaders that I had. Some of the first sergeants and the gunnies, that there were definitely folks that they had been in and they served honorably, but they never had to worry about, "Hey man, am I going to make this bill? Right? Am I going to get kicked out?
Mm-hmm.
Can I do the rent this month?" And it irked the crap out of me that these guys they're making more money, doing less work, and weren't being held accountable. Right. And I was still working my tail off because that's the the ethos I was shown growing up.
Sure.
But I was over it. Like, this is kind of silly. I had a really amazing captain towards the end, Jason Van Meter. He's a copper up in Oregon now.
Nice.
I think he's still in the reserves. Who knows what he's doing now. The amazing man. But he mentored me, and he pulled me aside. He's like, look, dude, you also need Joe time. Like, yes, give to the Marine Corps, and the Marine Corps will take everything plus more.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so he helped me out to learn to say, not to learn to say no, but to delegate a little bit more authority and not just take everything on myself. And to get back a little bit more of my time. And then, but yeah, once I turned in my papers, I'm like, hey, I'm ready to demote people. Like, I'm done here. The same thing. They're like, all right, thanks for everything. And good luck.
Right.
But yeah, nothing wild there. I think all the moral injury and everything else came from the job.
Nice. And how about the law enforcement side of the house?
Yeah, we see a lot of stuff, and we do a lot of stuff. The one time that I realized that I needed to talk and get some of this out. Family vacation years ago. I got 3 young men, and they were toddlers at the time. And we were at the Gulf, and it was me and my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and they're all holding the boys, right? I got one, and they've each got one. And this wave came in and knocked one of my boys down. And I don't remember which one it was, but he was small, and he's like bobbing in the water, and I freaked the hell out. I went off on my brother-in-law. It's just his nephew getting knocked over the pool. But I had fished people out of the pool, right? We've all fished people out of a pool, right?
Sure.
That young kid, the special needs kid, the old lady, what have you. And like that one hit me that day. It was like, holy crap. Okay, they're not bad people. My brother-in-law's a great guy. Right. He's not a bad person. Why am I talking to him like this? And the kid was fine. But yeah, I started to realize, like, wow, the job is stacking up, right? The things we see, the things we do, we're starting to cause injury. I'm like, man, we need to do something better here.
How far in your career were you when this incident happened?
Oh, that was 5 or 6 years in, still pretty early, but like when is enough, and then with certain things, and it wasn't a big deal. Like, like you get in fights, you get shot at, not a big deal, but that part, maybe because my kids were the same age as the last kid we pulled out of the pool.
Right.
And you know what, now that I say that, I've seen that as a sergeant with some of my deputies, where we'd have one of those traumatic calls with the child, and then this guy's got a 2-year-old at home.
Right.
And then he's having a hard time now for the next few months. But we are also different now, right? Like, as the good supervisor, you see that, you just sent a guy to a call where there's a dead baby, right? Baby got a hold of the dope, or drowned in the pool. Right. Before that guy goes and watch that night, you got a counseling team there, right? And they're following up with them. We didn't do that 20 years ago, 15 years ago. Hey, shut up, grab another glass, and you'll be all right, kid.
Yeah, and Ryan could attest to this. For some reason, this has been a really big topic. The last few episodes we talked about then versus now, with respect to wellness and mental health, which I want to get into a little bit. But what were your coping mechanisms back then, and what are your coping mechanisms today when you either experience trauma, or like, let's say you have a bad day? What type of things do you do to dissipate that?
So it looks kind of hypocritical with the bottle sitting next to me.
Sure.
I don't drink like I used to, but that was like the cliche thing.
Sure.
You get done at work,
Mhm.
go to the after shifter or just come home. Like, yeah, that was a rough day. All right. I was on our SWAT team for 10 years, and rarely do people call you at 2 PM. So you're out all night, you come back, it's 4 AM, and or shoot, it's 8 AM. The boys are already at school. Well, it's time to start pouring drinks. you know, and yeah, absolutely unhealthy, and not just physically, but mentally, right?
Right.
It encapsulates things. It doesn't get rid of things.
Right.
Now I've got, my own regiment of counselors on the department. I was talking with one of them right now. He's a sergeant at the Hemet station. He and I were deputies on the team together. Then I was his corporal. Then we got promoted to sergeant together. And yeah, the amount of hours that I've spent listening to him and then him listening to me, we should have a certification by now. But yeah, sharing, right? Talking about it. And not just the bravado machismo part where you're pounding your chest and, yeah, we got that guy. But, the shady parts, the worrisome parts, and the stuff at home. I've got a tremendous wife. We've been together, married 23 years, together 3 years before that. And early on, I didn't talk about a lot of it with her.
Mhm.
I just go to work, come home, go to bed, get up, go to work, come home, go to bed, a few drinks in between. And that was it. We didn't do a lot of cop parties. I remember we went to one, and it was that cliche cop party, right? Everybody's there. Everybody's, drinking, carrying on. It wasn't our scene. So we're kind of homebodies, but I didn't share too much about it, right? Didn't want to bother her with it or
Right.
worry her about it. And I still don't share everything with her, right? I don't want to throw all that on her, but we do talk a lot about it. And it was funny. We are that cliche, right? She's a nurse.
Okay.
She worked at a very nice hospital in San Diego with very high-end clientele and nice folks. And I worked in Moreno Valley, different end of the spectrum with some of the gangsters we have out there, right? There's still good folks out there too. But there's a thick criminal element out there. And it wasn't until she started working in a different hospital, right? I'm not going to throw that hospital under the bus, but they were calling the PD every night to come in and break up fights and shoot on the fugitive team. We were there, once a month, snatching somebody up. And when she started working there, she could see like, okay, Joe's not just an a-hole. Like, evil is real. There are
Right.
some bad folks out there that do horrible things just for no good reason. And I don't know. I think that definitely helped us, but having her as a partner that I can talk to and share these things with, and at least she doesn't put on the outward face that she's judging me. She might
Sure.
be, and she's been holding it in for 20 some years.
Mhm.
But she lets me vent about it. So having the guys at work that I can talk to, and having a wife that I'm not worried about sharing these things with is really
Right.
huge. And then what's been amazing for me, like the last 9 years,
Mhm.
is the way we got together, right? Through hunting.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
It is, even a bad day hunting is better than a good day at work, get up
Sure.
early, you're still doing route planning, right? Still doing
Right.
gear checks, still shooting. I really do enjoy shooting, and just getting out there, watching the sun come up. I didn't get out with my boys this year, but in years past, we'll hunt the local mountains here, and we're up pre-dawn, hiking into position, and then just get set up and watching the sun come up, listen to the animals around you. I don't know, that part's kind of freeing, right? The hippie side of it,
Right.
but it's really neat. And then taking it all the way through, right? Like when your brother came out with us a couple years ago, that was his first time. And I wasn't an OG by any means, but I had a
Right.
few seasons under my belt. And dude, watching him back at camp when he came back with that buck, oh man, he was stoked.
Right.
And then helping him process that animal. We did everything out there. We skin it, strip it into the major muscle groups, bag it up, throw it in the freezer. And I don't know, I enjoy sharing that part of it. I had an uncle who shared that with me. He got me into hunting. And then being able to share that with my boys and then share that with other people has been really good for me.
So, question I actually have for both of you, but really curious, Ryan. I don't think I may have asked this, but I don't remember. Do you? Good question, because a lot of our followers are obviously married. Do you ever share stories with Jackie?
That is my fault to a T. So.
Oh, okay. I don't think I've ever asked you this then.
Yeah. When she comes home to work, she just fills me in on every part of her day. You know, what's going on, what's bothering her. It's like literally like a good 5 to 10 minute soliloquy every day with me just listening. And, you know, I'm interested in her work, but the inverse is not the same. I come home and I just don't talk to her about it. I just don't have,
Is there a certain reason?
But when I get home, I just want to leave it at home and just disconnect. And I know she would appreciate if I would engage more talking about work. And that's one of my downfalls.
Oh, okay. And I don't think I've ever asked you this question. And Joe, you kind of talked about you do talk to your wife about it. And do you find that when you talk about stuff at work that it kind of helps? You know, maybe you had a rough day and you talk to your wife about it. Do you find that helps you?
Yeah, it's like playing it back again. Sometimes I can see, I don't want to say justifications, but reasons why maybe I acted the way I did, or maybe one of my deputies did something. I'm like, oh, okay. It kind of makes sense now. Or even now being where I'm at in my career at the administrative level, right? Do a lot of nerd stuff now. Seeing that bigger picture, right? That balcony view, right? The SLI thing.
Right.
But understanding, right? As cliche and nerdy as that part. Yeah. That guy.
Speaking of which, there we are right there.
Right. Like I said, nerd. But seeing that, being able to see that piece, sometimes it takes that replay, right? And some folks journal. I get too distracted to sit down and journal. I've tried it and doesn't work for me. And sometimes it's, you know what?
Right.
If it's not my wife, it's the lab. And my Roxy, my black lab, and she'll hear about my day. She won't interrupt me. You know, she'll look at me like she understands everything. She's waiting for the call.
Right.
But you know, it gives me an out, and I'm able to just play some of that stuff back and understand. It's like reading a chapter the second time.
Right. So question for both of you, and I'll ask you first, Joe. Have you always been a proponent of mental health, or did you like mental health and wellness, or did you kind of transition into that because of your role as a lieutenant or a sergeant?
Good question. So as a young deputy, I was older than some of the other guys, and you could see it coming in. And you know what we did at our academy? They did a good job talking about it early on. Like, hey, here are some things to think about. Everybody got that book, right? The white and red label on it, Emotional Preparedness for Law Enforcement or something like that.
Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement.
Yes. Yeah. And I didn't crack that thing open for about 5 or 6 years after I got it.
Right.
And once I opened it up and I started reading it, I'm like, oh, I'm that guy. No, that one's not me, but oh yeah, I do that. Holy crap. And seeing that, right? And then reading about it, like, okay, these are some of the signs and symptoms of these stressful incidents and what you go through. And then when you experience a couple, you're like, whoa, okay, that's not just some touchy-feely hippie stuff. Like that really happens.
Right.
There's some science here. And trying to share that with other folks, you know, it's or having the understanding when other folks are going through it.
Yeah.
There's one of my best friends, right? The guy I went to boot camp with, right? We hunt together every couple of years. He lives in Oklahoma, and I fly out there and we shoot dove, right? It's more of just him and I hanging out, you know, grabbing a couple beers and then just unloading. When I went back in the Marine Corps, he went back in uncoordinated, right? And He didn't have as easy of a time as I did, right? He was in Iraq. He got blown up 3 separate times to the tune of where his commander was like, "Hey, Mike, we're going to bench you, dude. You've rolled the dice enough times. We're taking you home."
Jeez.
And the last couple of weeks, they benched him. We're like, dude, we're not doing this again. And listening to him talk, and it's different, right? Because, that machismo in the Marine Corps, and you don't want to go talk to the wizard, and him sharing with me, I'm like, man, this is textbook, like from the book. Some of the things that are going through. His wife, another amazing woman, stood right by him and helped him to get the help that he needed. And shoot, he's a productive member of society. He's crushing it. Right. But yeah, you could see that happening in other folks, and it's wild. Like, I don't want to say it's predictable, but there are certain signs or certain symptomologies that happen when we have those chemical dumps and those exposures, and especially, those exposures, like for our military folks, for 6 months to a year at a time. And the ones that get overlooked a lot is our young men and women serving locally. They get that exposure over 30 years, 37 years for some of them now.
Right.
And if we don't intervene early and show them healthy coping mechanisms and other ways to get out, right, whether it be hunting or quilting or bike riding, what have you, finding that outlet, we can build monsters,
Yeah, very true. I'm going to ask Ryan the same question, but just real quick, you talked about the book Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement. So we actually, there's a time we gave all of our officers this book, and I think we still do in Ryan's office. He has a stack of the books sitting on his bookshelf to give to our officers. And we really encourage them to read the book. And, most of them, just because of career maturity, right?
Oh, yeah.
They disregard it. And a lot of them, they don't read it till years later, or some until they get the SLI or whatever the case is, and they finally read this book. But, what you said resonated with me too, because when I read that book for the first time, and I had already been in law enforcement for several years, I said the same thing. I'm like, holy shit, I'm all of these things: hypervigilant, over-identification, yada, yada, yada. I do all of these things. And I had told them that I wish I would have read this as a young police officer, because, I would have at least been aware of some of these things. But again, one of those things, live and learn. And I think even though a lot of our younger cops probably have this book, it's just shelved and they haven't read it yet. But a really, really good read, because it hits a lot of those points of, what we do as police officers and who we are, and some of the characteristics that we develop as we get in this career and progress in the career. So, Ryan, my question to you: have you always been a health and wellness type of guy, or was it just a position, kind of management or sergeant that developed you into that? I don't remember. I know we know each other for so long, but I don't remember.
So was Ryan Rodriguez, co-host of Whiskey and War Stories, a proponent of wellness? Hell no, absolutely not. I mean, I was an explorer since the early '90s, so I kind of came up in that old school mentality. My dad was old school Mexican. Absolutely not. In fact, I mean, I never ever made fun of anyone for showing emotions at work, but to myself, I'd be like, man, you're in the wrong assignment. You need to lock it up and you need to go. It wasn't until we talked about it several times on this podcast. Sean Diamond was killed when we saw the amazing work that people at Counseling Team International did in opening us up. But like I've said before, they asked us who wanted counseling. We were all these SWAT guys, so we're not going to do that.
Right.
Oh, yeah, tough.
Later, I found out that they individually went and it helped them. But just going through my career and just seeing, I mean, I had someone in my office a few years ago. They responded to a scene of a child that was killed up on a white in a traffic collision. And I called them up to my office just to check on them, and they started crying. I'm like, I told myself, oh my God, all we have to do is ask.
Yeah.
How many years has this profession been turning a blind eye to these emotions? And how many Pomona police officers have killed themselves in the last 15 years. It's too much that we want to talk about. So I definitely come a long way. And when Jaime asked me to be part of this podcast, the fact that it was centered on wellness was a big sell to me. This is a chance for us to get the word out. It's a chance for us to bring other people like Joe in here and get different perspectives, and to, truly try and make a difference and try and change the person like me that I was back in 2000 when I got hired. So definitely, I've come a long way myself.
Well, I didn't realize. I guess I always felt like you've always been pretty squared away. So I always felt like you were big into mental health. But I guess now that I look back into it, it does make sense. The whiskey and war story scene kind of was the tipping spear for you, I guess. So yeah, I'm glad to hear that. So while we're on this topic, Joe, as a lieutenant, what signs do you look for, like in your deputies, even in your civilian staff, that indicate that they might need some type of support?
Oh man, I get out of the office to go to see this stuff firsthand, right? Because I don't want to be called in by the chief and say, "Hey, how come you didn't see this with Schmuckatelli?"
Right.
The heat, right? When they're just an a-hole to everybody. That didn't just happen after briefing. Is it new baby at home, not sleeping, divorce? What is it that's going on? And ultimately the change in behavior, right? At the command I'm at right now, we've got 5 guys per shift at Hemet, another 4 or 5 at San Jack. It's easy to get personal and get like that, establish that baseline with everybody. Right. What is their norm? And then when you see those spikes, like, oh shoot. And it's, this since, we're almost done with the year now. Last year I was on Graves, and it was easy to just pull those guys aside in the middle of the night, and just chew the fat a little bit and get to know everybody. And, on that group, it was a little easier for me. I've had those guys in training when I worked the range or when I was teaching at the academy.
Yeah.
So there was that common bond. I wasn't just a lieutenant that, is in the office. And that's the first time I met them. I knew them as little recruits and baby deputies and kind of brought them up. So seeing that baseline, and then are there the dips where, hey, Jaime's he's proactive. That dude gets after it. Once the board is dead, he's out there hooking and jabbing. And then all of a sudden it's not happening. He's parked behind staters. He's not engaging with the people, and maybe it's time to dig a little deeper and just check on them. The worst thing that happens is I go there and try to talk to these young men and women, and they don't want to entertain it,
Right.
And I get it too. Sometimes it's difficult for that 25-year-old deputy sheriff when the 50-year-old lieutenant comes up and says, "Hey man, what's going on? Open up to me. I'm your buddy. Let me help you."
Right.
That's not lost on me too. And I'll put that back towards some of the senior deps or the corporals, like, "Hey man, I've been watching Jaime. He's having a hard time, see if there's more, probe a little bit. What can we do to help him?"
Right.
When we have our major incidents, you mentioned TCI, like we use those folks too. We have a critical incident. It's just a phone call. And we've really matured as an agency, the last 10, 15 years with that piece of it, making that part of the protocol pretty much. And then having some of the movers and shakers in our agency that really advocate for it. I've got, there's one captain I could think of. He was a lieutenant on the peer counseling team, and he's a beast. He's not part of the defensive tactics staff that, like, hey, I learned this one trick 20 years ago. He's I don't know what belt he is in jiu-jitsu, but he trains 3 or 4 days a week. As my lieutenant, he was out there in the field just chasing people, and he's still one of those men.
Right.
But he will pause a big, an operation at the end, be like, "Okay, no. We got the counseling team coming out," or if we call for him, he'll make it happen. And that stigma isn't for us, at least at the commands I've been at. that hasn't been there, you know, and they've really encouraged, well, shoot, we have a wellness unit yet now. And that may be a gentleman you guys want to have on the podcast. Eloy De La Garza. He's a teammate of mine.
Send him our way.
Will do.
Absolutely.
Will do. And that is his mission, is countywide, is preaching wellness and getting people the resources they need, right, whether it's an on the job thing or an at home thing. Because, you know, ultimately our most prized possession is our people, and we can't conduct this job without our people. So if we want to do the best job we can, they need to be in the best shape, best mental shape, and we get them the resources they need. Like, they're going to work harder, they're going to last longer, they're going to cause less issues, you know, and it's better for them, it's better for us.
Yeah, you know, one of the things you mentioned something that I kind of realized something right now. You know, you talked about, you know, like as a lieutenant, checking in with our folks and seeing how they're doing, right? Maybe we notice something's off, but you know, I think one of the factors into truly talking to our folks and having them divulge if something is wrong is the way that we treat them before that, right? What our interactions are, right? Because that's going to shape the way that they talk to us, right? And how honest and vulnerable they are with us. So, and we stress on this podcast too, right, Ryan? We talked about, like, you know, being human with folks, you know, as leaders, like, you know, taking a vested interest in your folks, not just being a lieutenant or a captain in Ryan's case, and you know, doing things by the script, but actually taking an interest in your folks. And that's so important because you know, just checking in every day with folks, going to briefings, asking how they're doing and encouraging them. You know, we don't realize that, but when that does take effect are those times when we have to talk to the cops, right? And have those deep conversations like, hey, something is off. You know, do you need help with something? Like, do you want me to, you know, recommend counseling, or, you know, and I found that being human with folks and developing a relationship with them, like you care about them, it counts when you need it, right? Like those times when you have to ask them, like, hey, is everything okay? I feel like something's off. I find that they're honest with me, right? And I'd like to believe it's because I've developed a relationship with them before, right? I'm not just a watch commander sitting in the office, you know, but I'm the watch commander that takes an interest, right? That's what I want cops to know, that, like, you know, he cares about us. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's the lieutenant that's proactive with them, not in the field, obviously, right? That's not my role, but being proactive. And for me, and I'd like to think that all of our lieutenants are this way, but when I'm working, all the folks that are 10-8 on duty, I feel responsible for them, whatever happens, right? So I'm responsible for their physical safety, and I'm also responsible for their mental well-being while they're under my watch, right? And I really take that seriously. I believe that if something is wrong or something happens to them, it's going to be my responsibility because I didn't see these indicators, you know.
Yeah.
Right. And I should have caught these things. And that's why it's important that people in my position that aren't in the field, I'm not going to calls with them, I'm not 10-8 with them, you know, I'm sitting in the watch commander's office, but to still be proactive by going to briefings when they walk across the hallway, talk to them when they got to come in here and you got to sign, you know, PCD or whatever the case is, that you stop and ask them, hey, how you doing? You know, how's everything going? How's the wife? How's the kids? You know, it's those little things, man, that at our level, we don't really see it, but for them, oh my God, it's huge. It makes all the difference. And I remember as a young cop, there were some watch commanders, and some that had worked a lot of special assignments and were SWAT guys, but holy shit, man, you were like walking on eggshells when you were going in there. Like you barely wanted to knock on the door. Like, excuse me, sir, do you have a second to sign my PCD? No, wait a minute. Okay, I'll just wait on you, sir. You know, I never want to be that type of person. I never want to be that type of leader. I don't want to be that type of lieutenant where people are like, oh shit, Heimer's in the box. I don't want to go in there and talk to him. You know, I want to create an environment where it's conducive to people wanting to be able to open up and you know, and come talk to you about stuff like that. So, and I think it's probably even more harder on the level like Ryan, your captain, right? Because, you know, because he gets so busy with stuff that, well, I think you still interact with the troops a lot, Ryan.
I did, and you actually stole the words out of my mouth. I was literally going to talk about that, but
yeah, please go ahead.
I found two things that have, I learn every day I'm at work, but two things. Joe was talking about how sometimes it's hard for the troops to like connect with you. But two things are paramount for us is number one is credibility, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you were a hard worker when you were a deputy or an officer, they're going to hear the stories, and that alone is going to help you. And the other thing is what Jaime was just talking about is constant communication, checking in with the troops continually. Even at my captain level, I make it a point. So there's 8 squads that I oversee. So I try to hit every single squad. So if I hit 8 squad, it's going to take me a while. But I try to do at least 2-3 months. Every 2-3 months. Favorite part of my job to go down there. But I did notice one time when I was at a back injury and I didn't go for like 4 or 5 months, I myself noticed a disconnect. So it's just important. It's got to be continual. It's very perishable skill, communication. And if you let it drop out, you're going to disconnect from your troops. And Jaime said the small things matter.
Yeah.
One thing I do as a captain, I was injured twice. I've had 2 back surgeries. And I could count on my hands how many people for my work kept in contact with me. And it's fine. I understand life happens. But of course, none of them were captains. I have 7 people IOD injured on duty right now. I make it a point to call them at least every 2-3 months. How are you? And they're like, oh my God, it's like earth shattering to them that a captain calls them just as, and I always say, I'm not calling you to rush you. This is not what it's about, to see your status. I'm just calling to see how you are. And then like clockwork, every time I hang up, they text me back. I can't believe, sir, that you called me, blah, blah, blah. And it's very rewarding. So yeah, Jaime, I was going to say exactly what you just did.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
So we're like, as humans, we're tribal people.
Mm-hmm.
You need your community.
Yeah.
You need those other folks, right? And there are a rare few that are nomadic, but I need that interaction with my people. I still have a group thread from that Watch 1 crew. That we call them the Jacinto heroes for Hemet City Jacinto. And Thanksgiving, threw that out there with a couple of pictures, just checking in on everybody. And when you work with these folks, and in our environment, you sweat and bleed with these folks, it's important. And when we're gonna monitor, and not to sound, like you're looking for bad stuff, but you can build that as long as you interact with people, you can build that baseline, and then when they're dipping or when they're spiking, and when maybe it's just that text or that call.
That's all it takes, yeah.
Yeah, and shit, Ryan, I just thought about that too, man. There's like people that are injured that I have not checked in on, and I completely feel guilty now that you just said that. So I'm like, holy shit.
Well, when we get done here, call them.
I'm gonna reach out to them this week when I get back to work, and So
I'll tell you what. You brought up the moral injury. I'll give you this one. I had a back injury, tore a disc. Oh, it was horrible, right? The worst pain I ever had. Yeah, right. I thought, is this it? Like, am I done? Am I going to be able to work? It was horrible. I was out for 6 weeks. I heard from my supervisor one time, and that was for him to come and have me sign an IA from something that started prior to the injury.
Shit.
He showed up at my house and he's like, "Hey, Joe, how you doing? Can I come?" Or he texted me, "Can I come by?" I'm like, yeah. Oh man, that would be great. I would love to see you. I haven't heard from you. Please come to my house. And then he walks in and he's like, "Oh yeah, you need to read this and sign this." Like, man, I lost all faith in that dude. I was feeling bad, and then that just like kicked me back down the stairs, like the kid on A Christmas Story.
Yeah,
that is horrible. And the good part of that is I've never treated anybody like that since, and I will not. Like you said, reaching out to those folks that are out.
Right. So important.
I got one of my guys is out right now, and we had a long conversation the other day, just checking in, right? Being human, treating people like people.
Yep.
Exactly. So I'll give you a chance to kind of talk about some of the stuff that Riverside Sheriff's Department is doing, like as far as mental health and wellness. Like, what do you guys have to support your civilian and your sworn staff?
I'll talk about it, and I haven't used it yet, is the Cortico app. So that's an app you can download on your phone for the county employees. And I think that's county-wide, not just the SO.
It's called Cortico?
Yeah.
Cortico. Okay.
And it's got the resources at your fingertips. So if you're ashamed to call the coordinator, shoot, you can do it from the privacy of your phone and set it up. And then it's also got like coaching pieces on there for stress management, things like that. We have De La Garza, Sergeant De La Garza. He puts out, I think it's quarterly, is a wellness, like the wellness newsletter, right? Just about different programs that are out there. And man, he is on it. He gets all the critical incidents, any notifications that come out get also routed to him, right? They go to command, they go to admin, the media. He's also on that tree. And I think he's got 2 folks with him, a correctional corporal, she might be, and then another deputy. Okay. And they respond out and they check on these folks, whether it be the critical incident, non-duty injury, or something at home, right? Someone loses a baby, a mother, father dies, what have you. But we've really taken a proactive approach to taking care of our people, trying to get away from the 90s cop thing, right? The Inspector Callahan pulling the decanter out of the bottom drawer and investing in our people.
So I'll word this in a way where I guess is not shameful. Is there stuff that you think could be improved upon?
On the mental health aspect of it?
Sure. Yeah.
Shoot. We'll go to a 2-day work week with 4 hours a day. I think that would be tremendous.
I would also love that as well.
Shoot, it's a rough job we do, and you can't soften all the edges of it. We've done a good job at taking the stigma away from it. I don't know. There are some times where, like, there's some folks that just don't want to hear it, and I don't know how to reach out to them. If it's less reaching out, shoot, that's a good question. We as an agency, mostly like De La Garza and his crew pushing it, have really been getting after it and trying not to be oppressive, but definitely be there to help folks out.
Right.
It did seem at one point it was a bit much. All of a sudden everybody was there, and we all know those folks, the super touchy-feely cops. Like, we're still cops.
Right.
You don't have to show up on every one of the calls. And I could think of one gentleman, I'm not going to throw his name out, but he's that guy, and he wants to help. He's super helpful and cheerful, but he could be a bit much. Some guys do need to sit back and process and then come to the table with it, make it make sense for them. And then they can journal it out, whether it's audible or by hand.
Generally speaking, and you could probably attest to this too, right? Within the last 10 years, especially the last 5 years, most departments, at least in the California area, but even nationwide, have made a significant improvement, I should say, with regards to like their mental health and wellness for their officers and their civilian staff. I mean, even small things like, at our department, we even have, it doesn't have to be this big drastic change, right? A lot of small things help out, like something as simple as, like, we have a couple massage chairs in like our, in our break room downstairs by our briefing room, where the cops could, if some of them get out of work in the morning and they got court, and so they have like a 2-hour lag time. So sometimes they got to sleep in their room or something. Mm-hmm. But there's a chair that they can sit down, take their shoes off, and like get a massage on the chair.
Like an electric chair.
One of those things. So they could get a massage on the chair, or we just got a food vending machine, it's called Healthy Penguin one. Yeah, and it's we've had it for maybe a month. And it's been phenomenal. The meals are cheaper than going out and getting drive-through. They're healthy. They're available, for our graveyard cops, and they have to come and fill it up twice a week because it's selling out, so fast. But these are just, smaller things that, our department is doing to kind of help out with like, mental health and wellness. And we know that fitness is also tied into mental health and wellness. So it's just in the last few years, there's just been such a big increase and improvement in the mental health and wellness. I'm kind of excited to see what it's going to look like in 5 years from now.
Right.
And of course, can improvements be made? Always, right? We could always do something a little bit better, improve somewhere. But I think where we are now, we're in most departments, at least around here, we're in a really, really good spot. Like they really take a vested interest in their cops' mental health. But you hit right on the head, Joe. Like we're police officers, right? There's a certain amount of ugliness and stress, and that we're just going to have to deal with. That's part of our profession. It comes with the job, and no massage chair, no healthy penguin, none of that. And no nice gym is going to take away that ugly side of what we do, right? And for most of us, I think we signed up for a little bit of that, right?
Absolutely.
So we do things to help cope and help make it better, but we're never going to take away that side of law enforcement. It's always going to be there, right? With ugliness always comes.
You have to battle evil.
Trauma, pain, tragedy, those type of things, and it's just how we deal with it. I think that's what's important. So, as we're starting to wrap this up, a couple questions I wanted to ask you, Joe. A family man, been married to your wife for 21 years, I think 23. You said? 23, and 3 boys. How important is that support system for you to have, your wife and kids? How important is that?
It's everything. Mm-hmm. Oh man, it's, being 50, I'm at the back end of this thing. Mm-hmm. I could leave tomorrow. I'm not going to, right. But I could leave tomorrow and they're it. There'll be a couple people reach out, but this idea is a part number and they'll replace it with the newer, sharper part number. And I'm going to need them, and I want my boys to have their father involved in their life, different story. My dad was not very involved in my life. That's why we had my stepdad.
Right.
And that was a hole that I had to deal with for years. Right. I don't want that for those guys. I want them. I had this conversation with a friend of mine up north. Long story short, like I teach at this range up there, and the old man, who's an interesting character, him and his son, who's in his 40s, like when they walk out of the room, okay, hey, Dad, I love you. I'll see you later. And I told him, I was like, John, that is so awesome. I want that with my boys. Like I don't want them to ever be embarrassed to say, Dad, I love you, to give me a hug, and to, I don't want them to be ashamed of me, and I want to have that relationship with them. Sure. And these 2 guys, I don't know how old the old man is, but he's 70 something. They're out there hunting. They were on a hunting trip the week before I went on mine. Mm-hmm. And they still hunt together. They have dinner together. They're really good friends. And I want to have that relationship with my boys. I don't want it to be adversarial, and I want to be there with my wife to support them. I don't want to have that adversarial relationship with her or have to pay her, 50% of my retirement to go live her own life.
Right. And your involvement with your boys, that you're so involved with them, do you think that's a result of the lack of involvement between you and your father?
Oh, it's definitely a contributing factor. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Like I'm not doing it to spite him.
Right.
And he and I repaired things. He passed last year, but the last couple of years of his life, we were on good terms. But yeah, like I want to see them be successful, and I want to be there to support them and make sure they have everything they need and all the stuff that we see out in the field. Right.
Right.
Those folks that we slap in the back of the car and take to the jail, most of them don't have a good relationship with Dad,
Right.
But successful folks, they come from a good family unit. They've got some grounding, And I want to provide that for my boys and give them the best step forward as they leave the nest. You know, I've got one that's right at the edge, and he's second year in college, and he's getting ready to fly. And I want to make sure that he does well, that he soars.
Yeah, and you know, I can attest to what you're saying because you know, I asked for your Instagram, which is typical. Most of our guests, if I don't already follow them or we don't follow each other, I ask for their Instagram, and I kind of do that for two reasons. One, I like to steal some pictures from there, and you know, sometimes post them up, you know, during certain conversations that we have. But also, you know, sometimes you could tell a lot about folks based off of their social media. And you have a lot of pictures with your boys on there, and I read a lot of I was reading a lot of the comments that you were writing, you know, and I think one of your sons had graduated from something, and you know, you were telling him that you loved him and you were very proud of him, and you had that's just one example, but you had several pictures up there. You had your boys on there, so I could tell that you're obviously very involved, you know, in your kids' lives, and that was one of the things that really stood out. So when you just said that right now, you know, I knew that was true because of what I saw, you know, from your Instagram. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So final question here. Actually, I have one final question, then I'll turn it over to Ryan to see if he's got anything. But so Joe, what advice would you give to any person that's trying to get into law enforcement, or even your young officers right now? What advice would you give them that they can make it where you're at, career sustainability, so they can make it to the end and be healthy in all aspects, physically, mentally, psychologically? What would you say to them?
Well, that the number one part would be to, like we've said a million times already, is treat people like people, right? Whether it be the crook or your partner, you know, and then as you make it through your subordinates, like if you treat people well, you know, how can I help you try to provide service for your partners?
Right.
It goes far, and it makes the job easier. You know, you're not so worried. I've come up with a couple of guys that we were good friends in the beginning, and it became very competitive for whatever reason, right? I just try to show up and do my job and help people out. And for them, it became very competitive, and you could see that in their attitudes and their relationships. And there's no need for that.
Right.
I teach at our basic academy, and I have this 8-hour block that I really enjoy teaching, and it's patrol tactics. I get 8 hours with these folks, and I get to talk about not just, you know, well, this is a pursuit, and the tactics of apprehending folks, right? Apprehending fleeing people.
Right.
But during that, I have the last class was 72. I had these 72 kids. I call them kids, right? They're 25 to shoot. I had one guy who was older than me in the last class, but I get to talk to them about that career survival, career sustainability, right? And what I tell them is that one piece, like treat people like people, but then have an outlet outside of here. Don't be you know, you've got every cop sticker on your truck, on your lifted truck, right, on the Ford Raptor that's backed into every parking spot.
Right.
Have some kind of an outlet, right? You like to shoot, do competitive shooting, hunt, get involved with your kids and their lives, right? Become a wrestling coach, do something at church, right? Something, but have an outlet outside of the job. You know, if the job is your only identity, you're going to get burned out and you're going to get disappointed, right? Because all we're doing is staring at the abyss, right? People don't call you because they're having a good day. And it's important to have that outlet on the outside. And for me, that's been hunting, competitive shooting. I need to dust off my competitive gear. It's been a while since I've done that. But you guys,
in this picture somewhere?
Yeah, those some studs right there.
Are you in this picture anywhere?
Yeah, that's the gray shirt.
Right here. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm pointing at it like my finger's going to be on the screen.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, that was the Police Olympics several years ago.
Okay.
That shirt, right? The logo on there is for the Recon Sniper Foundation. And they're a foundation that advocates for helping veterans, not just reconnaissance Marines or snipers, but anybody who's got a DD-214.
Okay.
And some of it's substance abuse. Some of it is tragedy, right? My brother had an issue where they lost everything and they helped them bounce back, giving people a hand up, not a handout. But part of it is they have several shooting teams to help people that are transitioning out of the Corps, out of the Army, or what have you.
Mhm.
Again, it's non-denominational, but to provide an outlet for healthy engagement, right? Not just, hey, guys smoking weed in the barbecue or in the garage, or just
Right.
drinking cases of beer ad nauseum, but to find healthy outlets to help these guys transition into being good citizens, right? Productive citizens.
Nice. Yeah, I love that. Um, actually, sorry, I meant to take this picture. I do have a question for you.
Mhm.
Can you explain this one for us here?
Now that's a mustache.
Oh yeah, yeah. That when I sent you that one, yeah, that one ruined Christmas pictures for like 4 years. That's when I was part of the Marshals Task Force, and as a deputy sheriff, that was the best time I ever had. We were tracking dangerous men, right? Murderers, rapists, pedophiles. It was very fulfilling work. And some would argue, like, oh, that's just a follow up. And yes, it's a follow up investigation. I didn't put the actual case on the pedophile, on the murderer,
Right.
but we tracked him down and we found him and we brought him to justice. And
Nice.
it was funny. Like, if you looked like a dirtbag sitting in a car, less people bothered you when you were doing surveillance.
Right.
Yeah, I worked with some really good men on that crew. That was a great time in my career.
Doing apprehensions after the fact that someone else did an investigation were some of the funnest times of my career.
Oh gosh, yes.
By far.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, those are the best. Yeah, we actually had a stint where we worked with the Marshals Task Force. For a while, we were doing an operation with them, and we actually stationed a big old trailer over at one of our offsites, and it was a really, really good time. Really, really good time. Ryan, any closing remarks for Joe?
I was going to touch a little bit more. Jaime, you asked about how can we improve as far as wellness and law enforcement, and I was thinking about it. We do like a good job, not to throw like a collegiate word out there, but on the macro level, as far as police departments, amazing job, right? You said Healthy Penguin, meal preps. We have a massage chair. We have a facility dog. We have quick access to psychologists. Amazing job we do. But I guess I challenge those field supervisors, even lieutenants and above. What are you doing on the micro level to further that? It's easy to say, yeah, my department's doing this. We're great. Yeah, but what do? Do you reach out on your own level? And like we talked about, when people are IOD, do you call them and say, how are you doing? Like Jaime was talking about, when people are walking by your watch commander's office, you call them in, hey, how's things with the family? It's those small things that make a big difference as far as wellness. So that is what we can improve on as far as wellness. Otherwise, Joe, great meeting you. It was a great conversation. You have a great story. I could tell you kind of the person that I would hang out with. Thank you very much for coming on. And I would be remiss if I don't ask if you could, I know you have, how many deputies do you have? Like 5,000?
We're about 4,000 and change.
Okay.
It ebbs and flows, but
so if you ever happen to cross by your sheriff, who we're fans of, we would be very happy if it was
to have him on our podcast.
I'd be remiss if I did not even try to ask. So I threw it out there.
Yeah,
I'll just go knock on his door. You're like,
yeah, we've reached out to him, and we're small fish, I guess. His inbox is probably full with a bunch of people asking for a podcast. So yeah.
oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
But, what do you got? I mean,
Worst thing that happens, he says no.
yeah. So Joe, yeah, one of the things that I always love is when we have people on the podcast like yourself that are in leadership positions, that aren't just in leadership positions, but they're actually leaders filling the leadership positions, right? Because we know folks and you have some at your department, and there's these folks in all departments that are in leadership positions, but they're not truly leaders, right? They're managers, and managers and leaders aren't the same thing. But to see someone like yourself that's been in the career for a long time and have worked a number of special assignments, SWAT and that type of stuff, to be where you are this far in your career and be this mentally savvy, right? And care about the wellness of your cops. And you talked about having good communication, and that's important. You talked about support systems. For someone like myself, it always gives me faith to know that there's folks like you in every department, that we really do have cops out there, and even for our people that are listening, the followers that aren't in this profession, that these are care about the people, they care about the community, and we're trying to develop good people, like good folks, right? We're not just trying to develop like hardcore police officers and deputies. We're trying to develop hardcore human beings, right? So that they're good people. They're good people wearing a uniform and a badge and carrying a gun, and they're doing good work, and they're doing this for the right reasons, right? Even if it's sometimes they got to take off the white gloves, right? And get our hands dirty by, using force when it's necessary and those type of things, but they're doing it in the right ways, right? They're doing it as good people. They're good people that are forced to do these things sometimes, right? It's part of our job. It's what we got to do. So, again, thanks for coming on. I'm going to also give a shout out to my brother for passing you our way. I really appreciate it. I love the stories, the vulnerability, and, RSO, the stations that you oversee are definitely grateful to have you. And, thanks for being the leader that you are in your department, and for coming on and obviously sharing some wisdom to us and to our followers, and hopefully something you said will help somebody somewhere that we don't know, we've never met, but we'll listen to this and hopefully help them out. So we're grateful to you. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. This was really cool.
Any closing words before we end this?
Just take care of yourselves out there. Treat people like people. Find some good folks that you can talk to, right? I didn't mention his name earlier. Chris Brown. You'll listen to this. But he's been a good counselor for me. Find yourself a Chris Brown that you can talk to. Awesome. And, somebody you can talk to outside. And treat people like people, man. That's been helping me for years now.
Awesome. Excellent words. I love it. Okay. Anything else, Ryan, before we cap this off here?
No. Happy holidays. It's Christmas by the time you guys hear this, almost.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Okay. To all our followers, thank you. Again, follow us on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts. This is season 3, episode 12, and thanks everybody, and have a good night. See you guys. Take care.